Okay, look for a motion and come back to regular session.
Motion to come back into regular session.
Second,
Seconded.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what time do we have?
8:29.
Okay. Sorry we ran later than we wanted to in executive session. We already did the salute to the flag, and now we're back from executive session. We have two sets of board minutes to approve this evening. The meeting of February 16th was a very unusual meeting for us because we had a snowstorm on the night we were planning to meet last month and for the February meeting, and we had to meet to organize the hiring of firefighters for the academy, which started on Monday. So we had a special meeting Sunday morning on the 16th. I'm just going to go over what we covered at that meeting since it was not televised and the public was not there. We adopted two sets of minutes from January 2nd and January 9th. We also executed an agreement, a mutual aid agreement with Westchester County. Part of that mutual aid agreement, we made a motion not to respond to the state of Connecticut because legal counsel wasn't sure of the protocols in Connecticut versus the protocols in New York, and will require substantial legal research to do that. So we signed the Westchester County's mutual aid agreement unedited, except for the fact that we are not going to be responding to Connecticut because it would require too much legal research to determine their laws versus ours. And there were the provisions of the agreement in the county did not allow for any dispensation to go there. So we also, what did we do as well? Okay. We passed a standard workday resolution, which was requested by New York State, defining our standard workday for certain positions that are non-CBA covered, which consists of the chief, assistant chief, mechanic, laborer, and clerk typist. And we did a separate resolution for the appointment of the secretary treasurer, just defining the hours. We also asked Westchester County, the board agreed to ask Westchester County to add fire district manager as a title to the civil service titles for Westchester County. And we're looking for that position to be non-competitive and exempt and non-competitive, which other departments around the country, around the state, have a civil service title, fire district manager, which is not a police and fire pensionable position. We also discussed overtime, issued a directive to the chief on how to manage, not how to manage, but a request on overtime and policing the overtime a little more tightly. One of those was not to give out any more overtime that consists of 24 hours, but 12 hours at a time if possible. And because we work 24-hour shifts, we think it's fairer to give out overtime in 12-hour blocks, and we requested the chief to do that. It manages the overtime and spreads it out more evenly to the membership. We've also asked him to have the doctor be more active when members call in sick. The board, the most important thing we had at that meeting was the fire academy was starting March 10th. The board agreed to interview firemen on February 22nd for probationary firemen, which was the following Saturday, which we did. It'll be the next set of minutes. We approved bills for $83,822.36 after review. And that's basically the minutes of the meeting. It wasn't televised. That's why I went through what we covered. If anybody would like a copy, we'll send you a copy by email. So can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Terry, and a second?
Second.
Okay, Baker. Mr. O'Hare wasn't at that meeting, so I assume you'll abstain? Abstain. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, the following Saturday, we held we interviewed 13 candidates. The second set of minutes is February 22nd, at which time we interviewed 13 candidates for the position of firefighter, probationary firefighter. We ended up selecting 4. I'll let Mr. Baker explain how that went during his comments. I believe we adjourned later than my minutes circulated. I think it was closer to 11:30 or 12.
Yeah, I lost track of the time.
So
Sounds about
I'll put 11, approximately, we adjourned at 11:37. So, I look for a motion to accept these minutes. Mr. Baker,
The motion to accept the minutes.
for Mr. Baker, you're going to second that?
Second.
Not attending, Jerry was out of town on a business trip or out of town, I should say, and Mr. O'Hare wasn't at the meeting, so I'll do a road call. Mr. Baker?
Aye.
Mr. Engeldon?
Aye.
Mr. O'Hare?
Abstain.
And Jerry?
Abstain.
And I'll say aye, so we'll pass those minutes. And I'll make the 2 corrections on type. There was a couple of corrections on Mr. Baker's name on the first set of minutes. So, those are the minutes. We'll go to fire activity report for February. Chief Grogan?
Yes, Commissioner. Actually, I'll include, a month of February, I had a total of 252 alarms. And as we missed, because of a snowstorm in February, January actually was 335 alarms. We've provided mutual aid on 3 occasions and received it on 1 occasion. Of course, the month of February and January kept us quite busy, especially with the prolonged hard winter weather that we've all endured. What did fall down did stay. We've had unusual cold weather, something we're not used to, but all in all, everybody held up well. The guys did a good job of staying on top of it, keeping things clear, and we didn't fare too bad from it. Apparatus have held up well for most part, but some issues did come up due to the extreme cold. We've had the repairs taken care of. Minor repairs still being handled in-house. Major repairs being farmed out, as needed. And also, when I had engine 30 and 31 both up for service, there was some repairs, and in conjunction with that, we did the preventive maintenance that was due. The next piece of apparatus I intend on getting over to our service provider would be engine 27, that's long overdue. Although presently, we did just recently, engine 30 came out the other day due to a leak in the coolant system. We identified the part that needs to be actually manufactured because they're not on the shelf anymore. And since it matches 2 of the other rigs, I've ordered 3 of them to be made up, because the other 2, it's actually a piping that goes from a separate cooler that handles the antifreeze. It's not a hose, it's actually pipe. And the other 2 are showing the same signs and about to start leaking, so rather than they get caught, we'll have the 3 made up, and we'll have them replaced before they let go. Of course, fire prevention still maintains busy schedule. They've been doing a lot more work over the last few months with the local building departments. I think a lot of projects on the table with the spring weather coming, so they've been keeping their hands full. Of course, we'll hear about 3 new whole house automatic generators have been installed. That was just completed. The Assistant Chief Stupple, is going to be providing a report to the board as to the whole process. He's been on top of it throughout. And this actually now leaves us, all 5 of our stations have new modern automatic generators. Our only headache now is what to do with the old Studebaker, which is actually a Continental. Okay, of course, there's been a lot of time spent on personnel matters. This continues. There's been a lot going on. I've been doing a lot of work with district council and even workers' comp. It's just been a lot going on, and leading to what you were just touching on. First, I'd like to wish well, since we missed out on February meeting, the end of January, we did see retirement of firefighter John Arrigo. Served this department many years, and wish him well in his future. He's going to hopefully enjoy himself, and again, wish him well, John. Enjoy it. With that, and of course, the board has put in some extensive time in this process. Is very involved. As we've had empty positions to fill, there was a need to hire. And a combination of a lot of extensive time invested by the commissioners and the front office staff, We've started on 4 new firefighters in the current fire academy. As of this point, they started this past Monday, as you stated. And there's still a few empty spots, but this puts us in a good position going forward. I just wish to congratulate and wish good luck to our probationary firefighters, John Howes, Mark Cleary, John Finazza, and Joseph Lucenti. And, hopefully we look forward to seeing them. They'll spend some time in the academy, and we'll see them at the end of June. Okay, last time I mentioned is Sunday, Eastchester St. Patrick's Day Parade. I believe local 916 members plan on marching, and we'll have a presence as a department. My intention was just put engine 29 in the parade to bring up the rear. And I think that pretty much covers most of it right now. That's all, sir.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Next, we have John Molinsari, the treasurer, with the treasurer's report. And tonight, we're going to be he's already supplied a bank rec to us. His copy of his treasury report has been delivered. But if, John, you can present, and also we have the resolution for the TAN.
Good evening. The Treasurer's report for the month of February 2014. Currently, we're sitting with a surplus in the budget of $336,000. That's made up of 2 items. We have a shortfall in revenue currently of $21,204, and we're under budget on the expenses by $358,000. The first couple of months of the year are a little misleading because we have some bills from November, December sitting in here. We also have January and February. And the other piece is we've just completed the audit. The audit was done the week of March 4th and 6th, and they're doing 2013. So there'll be entries that will change some of these numbers that will go back into the prior year, and we'll see how we finished last year out from a budget to actual look. I do have a resolution here. Last year, we borrowed $750,000 for about 35 days. Currently, that looks like where we'll be again, somewhere between 30 and 40 days, and probably about $750,000. Right now, we're going through probably close to $1 million a month between payroll and expenses. You read that we spent $83,000 in February. Well, we're spending a lot more in March. You're going to see the bills. It's closer to $650,000 you're going to be looking at up there. So that basically does it. We'll have a better idea how we're looking once we get the adjusting entries back from the accountants. We can adjust the books, things we're paying in 2014 back into 2013.
Okay, so John, also this month, well, on February 28th, we had to file something that was fairly arduous in the past, something called an AUD with the state of New York. And we used to ask for extensions and then try to get it done. We got it done by February 28th this year, right?
Correct.
And it's all in, and they accepted it?
Yeah, they've accepted. I'm not sure they've reviewed it yet, but they did receive it on time. We were a little late last year getting it in, and they didn't get back to me until this January on last year. So, I don't know how important it is, but at least it was there on time.
Okay, and the resolution we have to do tonight for the TAN,
Yeah.
because we have to authorize, we have to, I have a copy of it here. Do we have copies with us here? Or?
Yes.
I thought I had a copy. Oh, here it is. I have my copy. Gentlemen, do you have copies of the TAN? Okay, are they up front?
Yes.
Okay. So basically what we have to do is we borrow money for roughly 30 days to cover the gap between when the town pays us our tax payments and, or the town collects the taxes and makes its first distribution for 2014 to us on or about May 15. So we don't have enough money to make it to May 15, so we issue a TAN, which is basically JP Morgan Chase. We file a document with them. They give us the money. 30 days later, we send the money back. And the interest rate is usually pretty low. It's 70 basis points or something, right? Something. So we have to read this resolution into the record and then vote on it,
Oh, yeah, we did.
which I prefer not to do.
Want me to read it, or?
Oh, if you prefer, I would, I hate reading documents slowly. I'm too slow of a reader to
Okay, so
crank
I'm-
along.
Okay. Tax anticipation note resolution of the Eastchester Fire District in the town of Eastchester, New York, adopted March 13, 2014, authorizing the issuance not to exceed $1.2 million tax anticipation notes in anticipation of the collection of taxes levied or to be levied for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2014. Resolved by the Board of Fire Commissioners of the Eastchester Fire District in the town of Eastchester in the county of Westchester, New York, as follows. Section 1, tax anticipation notes, herewithin called notes of the Eastchester Fire District in the town of Eastchester in the county of Westchester, New York, herein called the Fire District, in the principal amount not to exceed $1.2 million, are authorized to be issued pursuant to the provision of Section 24.00, small c, 1, and 39.00 of the local finance law, containing Chapter 33A of the Consolidated Laws of the State of New York, herein called law. Section 2, the following additional matters are hereby determined and declared. The note shall be issued in anticipation of the collection of real estate taxes levied or to be levied for the fire district purpose for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2014 and ending December 31st, 2014. And the proceeds of the notes shall be used only for the purpose of which said taxes are levied or to be levied. B, the note shall be issued no later than June 1st, 2014. The note shall mature no later than June 1st, 2015. The total amount of the taxes levied or to be levied for the fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2014 and ending December 31st, 2015, December 31st, 2014, is approximately $16 million, and the entire amount of the taxes uncollected at that time. C, the notes have been heretofore issued in anticipation of the collection of said taxes. Section 3, the notes hereby authorized shall contain the recital of validity prescribed by the Section 52.00 of the law and shall be general obligations of the fire district, and the full faith and credit of the fire district are hereby pledged to the punctual payment of the principal and interest on the notes, and unless the notes are otherwise paid or payment provided for, an amount sufficient for such payment shall be inserted in the budget of the fire district, and a tax sufficient to provide for the payment thereof shall be levied and collected. Section 4, subject to the provisions of this resolution and the law, and pursuant to Section 50.00 and Section 56.06, let me say that again, Section 56.00 to Section 61.00 of the law, inclusive the powers to sell and issue the notes authorized pursuant hereto, or any renewals thereof, and to determine the terms, form, contents, including the manner of execution of such notes, and to execute arbitrage certificate relative thereto, is hereby delegated to the fire district treasurer, the chief fiscal officer of the fire district. Section 5, the note shall be executed in the name of the fire district by the manual signature of the fire district treasurer, the fire district treasurer, secretary, or such other officer of the fire district as shall be designated by the chief fiscal officer of the fire district, and shall have the corporate seal of the fire district impressed or imprinted thereon with corporate seal, and may be attested by the manual signature of the fire district secretary. Section 6, the resolution shall take effect immediately.
Okay. The adoption,
Adoption,
yep, go ahead.
the adoption of the foregoing resolution was, oh,
Okay.
I don't read that.
You're right.
That's,
Thank you, John. So we have here is, we go to Chase Manhattan Bank, we present this resolution to them, they make it, they stamp it as it's a note, they make it into a note, and then they have John sign his name about 16 times, and then they wire the money into the account. That's kind of how it worked last year. So I'd like, who would like to offer this resolution?
I'll offer up the resolution.
So Jerry, and seconded by
Second.
Peter. And, okay, I'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Baker,
Aye.
Mr. Napolitano,
Aye.
Mr. Inkledon,
Aye.
Mr. O'Hare, and I'll say aye, so that's that. And then the fire district secretary will certify on the following page. I don't know if we need to read this, but he has a certification, he'll sign and execute, and then we're done with the issuance of a tax anticipation note. All good? Any questions for John about the budget or the finances or anything? Thank you, John. Thank you for,
Thank you, John.
okay, tax anticipation notes done. Committee reports. Career firefighters, Commissioner Baker, do you want to discuss the hiring process?
Sure, Chairman. We've already discussed the date that we met with them. Basically, there were 13 overall candidates, if I remember correctly, off the list that was provided by Westchester County. They were broken down into two groups based on their scores. The first group was 90 and consisted of 4, if memory serves,
Correct.
and the rest was 85.
Correct.
And my math's not good, so what is that, 13? 9. Yeah, 9 to make, okay, well, it's right. So that's, we interviewed every candidate on the list. They all showed up. They all came in. They got asked the same questions. I thought the process went very well. It was actually very difficult to narrow the candidates down because they're very, very qualified, I thought, across the board. There was a wide variety of experiences, education levels, but everybody brought something to the table. Ultimately, though, we had to make a decision. We hired 2 off the 90 list, which allowed us to go down to the 85 list. Basically, for those following at home or don't know, you have to, you're allowed to drop down in certain ways. So basically, there were 4 candidates. If we hired 1 candidate off the 90 list, that still left the 90 list. So we hired, decided to go for 4 positions. So we had to revisit that list again, which we did. We hired another one off the 90 list, and then that allowed us to look at the other candidates as well. And we took 2 of those. So there were 2 90s, 2 85s, and if we decide to hire in the fall, which we're considering, we don't have to bring them in for interviews again because we've already interviewed them, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And that concludes my report on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, it was, that's well said. It was, as Commissioner Baker said, it was, everyone came, it was a difficult day. It was, it was an interesting day meeting all 13, but it was a difficult day making a decision.
Yeah, I think the quality of candidates is quite high. We had a number of people who had 4-year college degrees, many with very strong technical skills, a lot with demonstrated leadership positions, in sports and clubs, community service. And I think when we got finished, we thought that each of these 4 guys that we ended up offering the jobs to will ultimately one day hold leadership positions within the department. So we were pretty pleased.
Okay. Volunteer firefighters, Commissioner O'Hare?
I have nothing this evening.
Okay. House apparatus, Mr. Napolitano?
From a house perspective, we received a certificate of occupancy for firehouse number 5. We still have a final punch list now that we're working with the contractor with. So it's moving along. We still own some final payment on him, but the certificate of occupancy has been served.
Okay. Budget and finance, I don't have anything to offer tonight other than John pretty much said it all. I see the assistant chief here, and I should have had Ralph go before. I'll get you right up after this committee reports. Communications, I'll answer that. We had one event happened this month, and I'm going to mention for the board, just because it's public information. We were served with a lawsuit, and each of the board members requested immunity, public officers immunity for being served, because we serve on a board and you can allow to. So we all requested immunity, and so the district's insurance company was processed with the paperwork, and we're going to, defend it to the fullest extent we can. Grants and the grant committee,
Nothing at this time.
okay? Ralph, you can talk about the grant committee when you come up on that one thing you did this month. Health and wellness, Jerry? And technology? Okay. Assistant Chief Stupple's here tonight, and he was involved in the generator project and this a grant project over the month, so.
Good evening, gentlemen. You have my printed closure report on the generator project. All units were started and tested by the manufacturer's representative. Consequent to that, I started each one and ran tests on them, and they all performed perfectly without flaw. I don't see any punch list at all. Everything is appropriate. At this time, I would really like to express my appreciation to Mr. Spadaro, who facilitated the contractors by moving abandoned utilities that were in the way and offering assistance in finding the electrical system components that need to be identified, and also working on his day off on a Saturday morning to ensure that the transfer process went properly and backup power remained in place. And going forward, he will be responsible for checking the units monthly and ensuring that the fuel and the additives are correct and up to snuff. Any questions?
Did we decide if we're going to exercise them with load or without load?
The manufacturer's manual calls for them to be exercised under load because it brings them up to full temperature.
We're going to do that, how often is that? Once a week, okay.
And the transfer switches are rated, I think, for 30,000 cycles, so that shouldn't be an issue at all as far as wear and tear.
So just inform, I guess, each house when that occurs so that they know, I guess, that it's being
Yeah,
implemented?
Mr. Spadaro is going to set them so he can track them, but it'll be in the morning on weekdays. So, like you said, the staff will know that they run, and if there's any issues, they can report it to him. But there shouldn't be. The one in Bronxville's been here, I think, for 7 years, and we haven't had an issue with it. So I don't expect there to be any, as we've accomplished one of our goals in attaining a uniformity amongst the equipment. They're all powered by the same power plants. They have the same generator heads, and they have the same service backup company. So,
So just to repeat, because we know where they went, but the public doesn't know where they went. We put a generator in the fire headquarters on Main Street,
correct?
and we put one in the Chester Heights Firehouse has a new generator, and the Tuckahoe Firehouse has a new generator. The North End Firehouse got a generator about 3 years ago, and Bronxville had got one prior to that. So
Every firehouse now has a generator.
We're in good shape. They're top-of-the-line equipment. They'll function in the absence of natural gas service, obviously without electrical service, and we have a redundancy built in that we established a fueling vehicle that is loaded with another 100 gallons of diesel, and in an unforeseen calamity, we could draw fuel oil out of our heating oil tanks and fuel them with those. But as they stand, they should run for 3 days without being fueled continuously.
On one
Okay.
tank, yeah. The one tank will run 3 days.
So thank you, Ralph, for getting all that done, and we'll approve the payments tonight. The other thing we did, we put just a grant request in for the New York State Records Management this month.
I submitted a grant on behalf of the department to the New York State Archives and State Education Department, and what we asked for was funding to digitalize your minutes going back to 1897, which would allow them to be in a preserved form, and also would allow for optical scanning capabilities where if you needed to research something, you could do it by character. So you could go through those volumes using the software rather than manually thumbing through those 12,000 pages, which if it comes to bear, it would be very helpful, I believe. And also on the grant cycle, we took our last delivery of equipment from our SCBA grant that we got several years ago. which is the end of our cycle, which was a $425,000 grant that we secured. And we got the last of the air cylinders, which represents a value of $76,000 that we accomplished out of that grant. And that grant's now totally finished.
Okay, did those we've gotten those recently? The new
They came in this month, but they were the last of the stock coming, and we kind of delayed it because we had equipment in stock, so it's replacing what we used.
I think part of that, yes, at the time, because along with the new air packs that were all, up-to-date new standards, it also came with additional bottles or the tanks that would change out. Because of the stock and the fact that, try and stagger when they need to be replaced, was it, Ralph, 10 or 15 years they're obsolete?
15, they have to be destroyed.
15, so we didn't want to get hit with 40-some-odd bottles in 1 year. We thought to have the provider stagger the distribution, so there's different years. We won't get hit all at once.
Some later board will thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think that was, I don't know if that was the assistant chief's idea or the provider, AAA, whose thought was that we stagger it?
It was mutual.
Yeah, okay.
Okay,
Make sure it's scanned in so that we can, they can research it and get it quickly.
okay, Ralph, anything else?
Well, you have the specifications for engine 27. And they need a little bit more work, but that's been a long process. That was emailed to you.
Yeah, I thought we were 127 pages or something.
Yeah, it's a lot. I have a scheduled meeting on the 20th with our phone equipment vendor, and we're going to have a discussion on trying to reduce our reliance on analog phone lines and go to IP phones, and perhaps reap the benefits of those new features at a greatly reduced cost, because our phone lines are expensive. So the office staff is gathering up our invoices over the last several months, and she's going to target those to see if they can be reduced and worked on. So I'm looking forward to that.
So that's what, the 20th of this month?
Yeah, it's next Thursday, I believe. And I am waiting on a meeting with Westchester.
Get me in the next meeting that you have with them.
It's the initial one.
Okay, so I can't make the 20th, but
Sure, subsequently, I'll brief you.
copy me in as well. I'd like to
Because
participate.
one of the things we don't think we need the 4-digit dialing. We think we could go to 7-digit dialing.
Right, and that's what she said. We could upgrade the equipment that's in headquarters, the switching equipment, and then go to IP phones and create a whole new system with obviously less lines and less cost. And more importantly, they'd be much more reliable because, as you know, we have a lot of problems with our copper lines.
Yeah, the other thing we need to work on, and they may not be in the position to work on it because they may not be incentivized to work on it, is the direct lines, the lease lines we use for the
Radios.
radios.
lines.
Those things have gotten much, much more competitive, those pricing of those leased lines. And so I don't know if it's in their domain to negotiate those lease lines, but we never negotiated the lease lines. We have to negotiate our lease lines. I mean, in businesses that use lease lines are always negotiating those things.
They're providing equipment and a solution. That we'd have to go separately to phone companies to do
Yeah.
that. That's on the list of things
The
that we
next
need to
item I
check.
have is, I said I have a meeting hopefully next week for a demonstration on the county-provided ID systems to do accountability cards. That should be coming next week. And the final thing I have is that Captain Tween and I went to the Fire Academy this morning because we had some equipment issues to deal with the Provies. And everything seemed really well up there. They seem off to a good start, and they seem to be on their way. So that's good.
Okay, thank you, Assistant
You're
Chief.
able to use the seal that we used for the cards?
Yes, I sent that to Mr. Kenyon, and he said that was fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And thanks for checking in on them. I'm sure they're glad to see you.
Tom Andres, did you want to mention the election process we're doing? Because last month's meeting, we didn't have a chance to discuss our meeting.
Fine, we'll do it now. So good evening. My name is Tom Andrus, 6 Shady Lane in Eastchester. I'll spend a minute to bring you up to date on the status of consolidating the 2014 Fire Board election with the general election, which will be on November 4th of this year. And to that end, Chairman Winter and I met with the County Board of Election Commissioners, Colte and Lafayette, on, and their executive assistants on February 12th to explain the legislative bill, Bill S-02122A, which was passed last year, which changed the fire election date from December to November, and is aimed at consolidating the two elections. And we had given them a copy of this, or sent them a copy of the bill in advance of that meeting. And we explained the major benefits of the consolidation, which are expanding the voting franchise in Eastchester, get more people to vote, which is basically part of the Board of Elections' mission anyway, and saving taxpayers money. We showed the number of voters in the last 5 elections averaged a little under 1,000. We have some 20,000 registered voters in Eastchester. And we also showed that adding a fire commissioner vote to the general election ballot in the process will have a negligible effect on the cost of the election. Same polling places, same machines, same election inspectors, same hours. And the commissioners seem generally receptive and willing to go forward. And we're working with them and their staffs to make it happen as soon as possible. And as a matter of fact, I have a follow-up meeting with the commissioners on Tuesday morning to continue the process. So we're pretty happy with that.
Okay, and we did have a good, the commissioners did raise some challenges, but by the end of the meeting, we seem to have gotten over most of those challenges, and they were going to research them and come back to us, so
Yeah.
Tom was instrumental in getting that meeting going and getting these guys together, so it worked out well. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome.
Mechanic, retiree, health care, overtime planning we discussed, installation generators. Oh, during the month, we also settled a lawsuit with franchise contracting that was involved in the North End Firehouse. It was approximately $23,000 or $24,000 we settled on. They were asking for $67,000. We went back and forth over a number of years. We claimed them when they sued us, and so we settled that lawsuit, and that's been all put to bed. So we're glad that's behind us.
With lien releases done.
And they had lien releases, and the checks were made out to 3 parties, because one of the questions was the subs might not have been paid. So we wanted to make sure the check was made out to 3 parties, and the lawyers handled all that, and it appears to have worked out to our advantage from what they originally billed us. So even with legal costs, we came in a lot
Sure,
cheaper.
it's to our advantage, but
Well, it's over.
it's over.
We had a request from the Tuckahoe School District, I believe, to use the firehouse for a school district election,
Yes,
and does anybody have
that's
any?
for the May school board elections.
Does anybody have any objection to that?
No,
Nope.
I had already wrote them back, it was fine.
Okay, so that's no,
Did you say you responded back to them already?
An email
Okay.
that we were going to bring it up in this,
Okay, otherwise, I left this stuff on my desk, I'll see to it.
I never got anything further. Did they give you a big package or something? They were
No, it
looking
was
for
just
Wi-Fi.
simple, it was a one-page request. I'll touch base and make sure they got word that it's been approved.
okay. So before we go to new business, I have this typed wrong. We should go to local 916. Sean, would you like to have anything for tonight?
Good evening. Sean Stewart, President Local 916 and a resident of the north end of Eastchester. I'll be real brief. Station 5, Jerry, you said you had a punch list that we're working on. Does that punch list include shades and blinds?
No, this is the punch list for the contractor. The contractor wasn't obligated to supply shades and blinds.
Because they've been in there a couple of
That
months.
punch list is being taken care of.
That was the
It is?
decoration.
That was the
In-house.
decoration committee was going to do that.
Right, and it might be sitting in the front row.
What? That's the front row.
No.
No, there was supposed to be a decoration committee that was supposed to get together to
Who
do,
put that committee together?
it was my recommendation to do it.
Oh, okay, well, that failed. Food allowance, as far as the food allowance, has that been taken care of? I don't know if the board or the
Yeah,
chief...
they got paid.
Okay, thank you. That's all, I'm just checking, because I couldn't get an answer out of some of the members. And, don't ask me why, and I have some receipts here that I'll show you after the meeting. This is stuff that was, I guess, expenses when they first moved in. And you could peruse these and do what you like with them, but there was some stuff that needed to be bought, and I have the receipts, and you can get a hold of Quentin Baker.
Okay.
I just got these the other day.
Right, right. What you should probably do is give them to John, and then John will give them
Okay.
to the chief, or you give them to the chief, and then they'll decide whether they get to the board's attention.
We did give them over 1,100.
Yeah, you guys can work.
Jerry, I handed in a receipt last week for the scanner. Was that taken care?
Right now.
Okay, thank you.
Does not include the taxes.
You're right. It does not include the tax. I don't know why they did that. I'm with you 100% on that. Local 916 will be marching in the annual Eastchester St. Patrick's Parade on this Sunday, which starts at 3 o'clock. Lineup is 2:30 at ICS. I'd like to thank Commissioner Baker. I know, Jerry, you were out of town. The meetings that we're having monthly have gone well. We've been able to take care of a few problems and hiccups here and there, and I know we're still working on a couple other ones, but I appreciate your time. And again, I know you were out of town, but I also appreciate the time that you guys put in.
You're welcome.
That's that. I would like to ask permission from the fire district on April 16th of this year. The New York State Professional Firefighters, where I am a district rep and a state rep, we're holding a retirement seminar. It seems that it's filling up very quickly. I have Concordia College from 8 to 4. We're going to need a second day, and I can't get the college that Thursday, which would be the 17th. So I would like permission if the two people that are coming down from the state with the retirement system, if they could set up in that old dorm. And basically what it is members from our department and other departments come in, give their ID, and they go over their retirement options. So we just need a place that they can hang their hat. And they'll probably be there from 8 to 4, 4:30, if that's okay.
You wouldn't want to do it in Bronxville more than there?
I don't know if it's more centrally located, because then, if you have guys from other departments, they can just park in the back. And each, I guess, if you want to call it, sitting takes about 15, 20 minutes. So if that's okay with the board and the
How about
chief.
the second floor, Chester Heights, might be ideal for that.
Well, Sean, the first day, it's like a little bit of a seminar, but really what you're talking about is one-on-one time?
Yeah, it's one-on-one time.
Yeah.
No, it's not let me back up. The seminar is on Wednesday. It's about 2 hours. And then from there till about 4:30, there's like 15-minute clips that, firefighters, sit down with the person from the state and go over their retirement options. Have they stayed too long? Should they go? How long they got? And it's filling up. It's going to fill up pretty quick. So the second day, which would be Thursday the 17th, they're just going to come in. It's not a seminar. They're just going to, like the chief said, it's just going to be a one-on-one to sit down with the person from the retirement board to go over it, if that's okay.
Yeah,
that's no problem.
just if you think one of the other houses are more appropriate, pick one of the other houses.
I just wanted to get permission because I got to get this again out in an email and put it up on the website. And lastly, we're having our annual dinner dance, which is Friday, May 2nd, and it's going to be over at the Fountainhead in New Rochelle. Cocktail hour is 7 p.m., and then that's roughly about an hour or so, and then dinner will be at 8. Tickets are $100, and this year we are honoring 20-year members, firefighter Stephen Randalone, firefighter Arthur Heinzinger, firefighter James Van Slyke, firefighter Frank Nanarillo, firefighter Thomas Cusack, Lieutenant Robert Pintaval, and the retirement of John Arrigo. If anybody's interested, they can contact Kevin Stewart or John Howard. And also, we have a journal ad booklet. If anybody's interested, they can get a hold of Kevin Stewart and John Howard. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. And volunteers report?
Good evening, gentlemen. I know I haven't been here since December, but our new commissioner, welcome. Commissioner O'Hare, just want to let you know that our monthly meeting is the first Thursday of every month at the Chester Heights Firehouse. You need not knock on the door. You're always welcome, and as well as the other fire commissioners also.
What time is that?
8 o'clock, first Thursday of every month. Okay, a couple other things I got. Our Memorial Day Parade, we haven't set a time yet, and we're still working on that. That's from the veterans. Our Mamaroneck Day Parade is July 1st at 7 p.m. Not to offend anybody, but to the board and to the public, on anybody running for any public office or any political office, please, no signs on any memorial, else it's that sacred grounds, whether it be the World War I, World War II, the Samuel Crawford Monument, the Vietnam-Korean Monument. There is no signs to be put on there for political reasons or firemen, board person running for fire commissioner. May 18th is our annual memorial service at Immaculate Conception Church at 7:45. It's only March, but May, I just want to let it know, hope to see more than one fire commissioner. After the Mass, 7:45 Mass, our memorial services at the monument, the Volunteer Fireman Monument, and breakfast is at Fogarty's. And Sean, this invitation also goes to you and your personal staff. May 18th, 7:45 at the Immaculate Conception Church. Okay. One other thing I'd like to know. On this election, on the fire commissioner, when the general election comes, explain to me if that's going to be, if an individual goes in the voting booth, is that all at one time, or does the individual have to get out of the voting booth and go to another voting booth?
Right now, the conversation we had with the county, the objective is to put it on the bottom of the front of the ballot. It'll be a line on the bottom, and it'll be one polling place on the regular ballot. That's the hope to do now. You cannot, I've learned at this meeting, Tom and I learned at this meeting, you can't put names on a...
Sorry, for those going at home, my wife just walked in. Sorry.
So you can't put names on the petitions. You know where it says petitions on the ballot? We thought originally you could put a name, a fire commissioner there, but you can't. It has to be on the front. So they're going to shoot to put it on the front, and they're working out the particulars right now. But they think they can work it out.
So in other words, if an individual comes to vote, everything's all in one machine?
Ideally, that's what we're hoping for right now. That's the target right now. They believe they can do that.
Because the only thing I was wondering, if you have to get out of that section and vote on another section, an individual is not going to do that. Especially if a person comes in, it's got to catch a 7:30 train, and they come in to vote, say 6:45, and then they got to get on another line to vote. It's not going to work.
Yeah, the county was pretty positive about trying to make it as seamless as possible, and we'll see if they can get it done. That's the best we can tell you.
Okay. Okay, and I guess that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Laurie. Okay. I guess we're for opportunity for public to address the board. We don't need, it's too early for board member comments, right? Do we have any, it's an opportunity for the public to address the board if anybody has any comments?
Good evening. My name is Paul Puccini. I live at Tuckahoe Avenue in Eastchester. I'm a lifelong resident of the town. I was a detective in the city of Mount Vernon for almost 20 years, and I retired in 2009, and I am now a private investigator. I've been watching these meetings, whether it be the town meeting, the Board of Ed meeting. I've been watching this meeting for probably the last 2-3 years. And what just seems to me is that it seems like a lot of dragging the feet issues. We're not addressing issues and getting them done to resolution quickly. And I'm going to bring up one that I won't even bring up the North End Firehouse right now, but the generator issue, it just got finished. How long did we look into doing these 3 generators?
Well, the generator project was originally hoped to get done about 3 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. Then Hurricane Sandy came along, and generators became a premium. So we kind of held back on that project, and then we got it done now. So I think we got it done, and it's done. I mean, there's a lot of dysfunction on the board years ago, and it's
I
over.
was watching a meeting before Sandy, and it was discussed, and it wasn't done. And I think it went almost 8, 9 months, and then you said I saw one meeting that was going to get put into the paper. Like, what takes so long? And that goes to with the North End Firehouse. How much money was spent on that firehouse? How much money was spent renting that other facility? I mean, it's not an endless pocketbook here. It's tax dollars at work. It's tax dollars that people work hard for, and it just seems we're just spending so much money. And I was watching a meeting the other day. There's talk about doing work at other firehouses. Is it going to start with a little project and then blow up into something big again? No. I just don't understand why you just can't vote on something and make sure it gets done. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I think if you looked how this board has functioned since a year ago, most of the members that were on the board 2 or 3 years ago, when a lot of these issues happened, are no longer on the board. You've had a recycling of the board in the last 3 years. Okay. And you've noticed in the last since a year ago, January, 2 years, issues that have come to the board are being processed and addressed and corrected. We're also uncovering issues that we never thought we'd have to uncover, like we have 20 people. You're a retired civil service worker. You understand how this works. We have members who retired 15 years ago, who've been paying their health care for 15 years out of their retirement for their family plan. We have another members who retired 15 years ago who are not paying their health care out of their family plan, out of the retirement. You're to approximately 20 people in the last 15 years haven't paid their health care, $800,000. That takes us a lot of time to reconstruct, locate, redo all this accounting. So in the last year, we've done a lot of accounting rebuilding.
You know, I hear what you're saying also, but then, I mean, I have notes here. Look at the North End Firehouse. That was supposed to be a small project, and then it just snowballed. For what was the purpose?
The North End Firehouse.
Excuse me, I'm not done finished. Let me finish, please.
Okay.
What was the purpose of just doing, from what I thought was supposed to be the floor, and then, oh, you know what, let's do this, and now it's what, $600,000-700,000 just to do the firehouse, plus the rental of that other shack, which you want to call a trailer? I mean, where does it say, you know, why wasn't it done quicker? Is there a game plan going forward for each of the houses? You know, I heard something mentioned about doing the apron at the Tucko house, correct me if I'm wrong. And then, you know, is that going to snowball into, is that going to snowball into a $400,000 or $500,000 project because we want to do this and do that? I mean, there has to, you just can't have an endless check.
But you have to go back to your station North End Firehouse. You're a former detective. Go pull the minutes going back when that project was started. Look who voted on the project and look who voted against it, right? You won't see me voting for anything on that project. I objected to every part of that project. Most of the board members who brought that project forward and sponsored that project are no longer on this board. And the community, you know, they lost their elections by about 75% each member of the vote. So I think the public understood what happened there, and since then we've corrected those issues. Okay. So I think you're 100% correct on what you're saying. It's just that you're delivering the message to the crowd that wasn't responsible.
Well, you know, I'm
Just to interject for 1 second, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The only project that was supposed to be handled at that time was the floor, because of the weight of the apparatuses today are multiple times heavier than what they were years ago. And that was the only project that was supposed to be done at that time, so the apparatus wouldn't fall through the floor. Where everything else came into play, I don't know. Now, going back to other things, people came and said, why don't you do Station 4? It should be done. And I agree. That station was shored up when I first came on the job to be a fire commissioner, and this is my 15th year I'm in now.
Is that Tucko? I don't know the numbers.
It's Station 4, it's in Chester Heights.
Okay, thank you.
And the reason why that never got done is because every time there was one I wasn't dotted, one thing wasn't dotted, you made sure, Mr. Chairman, that you would stop that project and it would not move forward. And that thing is still sitting there, okay? So there's a lot of things come into play, and I can't talk right now because I'm an elected official. I don't know, I know the fire district received summonses. I did not get a personal summons. All right, I just want to make that very clear. There's a technicality where the Board of Fire Commissioners was involved, and I'm not going to talk anymore because it's a legal matter. So there's a lot of things that come into play. Every time we started the project in North End, you screamed and yelled to stop it because before you even get to blame the contractor, you wanted this done, you wanted that done, you wanted the basement done, you wanted it done like an office building, you wanted the outside the firehouse done, you wanted the windows put in, you wanted the roof to put on. Now they tell me there's a sun deck up there. I could be wrong, I don't know. So let's not make a snowball that all these other guys, when they voted on this, and the attorneys we had then were wrong. It's something you stopped, you fast-talked, and you probably manipulated the people, because when it comes to money, look where it's going now. It's going out to all kinds of lawyers. So what you save over here, you lost over there. Nothing was scheduled to be done except the floor in North End because the people are hurting for money. People are out of work, and that's why, when I was chairman, that's why I wanted to do it that way, and nothing else. We could do a little bit of piecework at a time to help the firefighters, at the same time protect the pockets and the wallets and everything else of the taxpayers. So I'm not going to sit here and talk fast talk. You can say all you want tonight and try to blame how bad they were and how good you are, but there could be a possibility, a little bit of a smokescreen. And that's all I have to say on that matter. I am not saying anything else.
Mr. O'Hare was the chair, just so you know, Mr. O'Hare was chairman for 7 years.
You were not here on the board at the time, so don't tell me you know all the answers. There's a lot of things that went on, and it may come out down the road before the summer's over.
How many years resident have you been in the town?
Born and raised, I'm 43 years old.
Right, so I mean, you know these firehouses are built back in the 20s. They've been neglected for decades, and I totally agree with you. The district's never really had any long-term plan, long-term amount.
That is wrong. That is not true. If you check the records, Mr. Pacini, you will see, before I came on board here, Mr. Ford, ex-Commissioner Ford, who was on here, and other people from Bronxville, we did put things in place here to make a long-term thing. And for one reason or another, it was stopped, not by the past boards.
Well,
so once again, I tell you, Commissioner, before you make a statement in the public, make sure you're right.
All right, so if there were plans, they weren't executed then?
Well,
Okay.
that's one of
That's
my...
very true. They were not executed because they were stopped by Commissioner Winter many a time we tried to start something.
Not exactly.
I don't want to start a war here, but I'm not going to be sit here and get hit and get my ex-commissioners who worked very hard from the village of Bronxville and elsewhere to try to do everything right. And I could name a lot of commissioners, but I'm not going to name it. The only reason I named him because he's the one that was the chairman when I became on board. Okay, so let's not play games. They were very efficient. They were very efficient what they did. They were very efficient what they did.
Okay.
Now you like to overtalk me a lot and shut me down, like when I go to
I just don't want
special.
to make this a previous...
When I go to the special meetings at headquarters, when I bring up a point, you verbally threaten me on many occasions to sit down and shut up when matters I weren't happy, matters where things weren't being done, whether it be in the front office, upstairs, downstairs, backyard, or whatever else. So let's not play snowball games here.
Okay, I don't think your questions are answered.
Well,
So,
I was born and raised here, too.
I have a few more points. If I-
76 years.
on Firehouse, I'd like to address maybe one at a time. So Firehouse 5, right? The original construction was just to redo the floor. In my opinion, it should have been more than that, but unfortunately, that's not what the board at the time approved. They just approved the floor being redone. When we got into the house, there was a substantial amount of work that needed to be done upstairs in the living quarters.
But why? Why all of a sudden, once we said you're going to do the floor, that all of a sudden, oh, you know what, maybe we should look upstairs? Wasn't it given, did anybody go over the building once before and look at it? I just don't understand it. I don't understand how it goes from a little project to this massive undertaking that just The money is just ridiculous, the money I heard coming out of here. I mean, and then again, you look at what you rented up, not just forget the cost of the building, then what you paid for the
So-
other little facility.
So I had the same frustration as you, as a citizen, doing exactly what you're doing right now, having the same conversations, I don't know if you look back 3 years ago, when I was in your spot, making those same questions that you're making right now. And then I ended up inheriting it because I'm a part of House and Apparatus. I don't want to make excuses. I really don't care what other commissioners did. I just know what was wrong, and I try to make a difference, and I think we are making a difference, okay?
Yeah, but at what cost? Are we
Procrastination
doing it
is
just to
probably
make
the
it look
biggest problem.
nice, or is it a structural issue? Did it have to happen?
The
I mean,
floor-
you're talking how
the
much
floor-
money?
Okay, so,
Wait a second. We had to make the building usable.
so there's
Okay,
two things.
But when you say that, there was an idea, so we had to make the floor stronger to hold the apparatus. I get it. So we came up with the idea, I'm assuming we have to fix X. And then you know what? How do you get from X to Y to Z? Like, what did it snowball? And was it just, let's just do it? Or, that's what I don't understand.
How about, I'll explain to you. When they did the floor, when they decided to do the floor, and remember, I was not in favor of doing the floor, but when they decided to do the floor, they didn't have a plan for where all the existing piping or electricity was. There was no demolition plan. The idea was to cut the floor out, stick new steel in, pour concrete, and then the plumber can figure out by ways and means where the electric and plumbing was.
Does that, I mean, so stop.
That's exactly what happened.
But where does that come, how does that even rational that this day and age, you feel like we're going to cut a floor out and then we're going to just throw plumbing, like, where's the thought process to it?
Right. Well, I was expressing this thought maybe 3 or 4 years ago at public meetings after public meeting by myself at the time. And there were many people in the back who nodded their heads saying, yep, we remember this happening. So.
Well, that's not a true statement you're making now.
So that's what happened. And
Well, we're
this,
not answering
but
this
we're
question.
going
He's
forward
asking how
now.
it happened.
Going forward, how it happened, the public sat back and watched it happen. That's how it happened. And the public reacted by electing new commissioners who are now taking a proactive stance and fixing the problem. And the commissioners up here now are fixing the problem very aggressively. And they're fixing multiple problems aggressively. And that's what we're doing. And it doesn't help to go back and reinvent what happened 4 or 5 years ago.
All right, then I have another question. I saw the meeting the other night. I mean, it might be simple. I don't know what the cost is, but pots and pans and stuff that were left in the house were damaged.
No, they were contaminated.
Contaminated. Okay, contaminated.
I don't know what that means, by the way.
Well, I'm sure they got dust on them from the concrete saws, whatever, and
No, I
I
thought
don't
maybe
blame
they-
these guys. I wouldn't want to use them either. But the point is, why should that come out of shouldn't the contractor realize that he's doing this work? He should have put up zip walls. He should have taken proper care of what was there. That we have to have expensive now of I don't even know how much it is, whether it's
The pots and pans are left in the attic.
left in the attic. I don't know, I'll just let that go.
And I don't know how they could be contaminated. They weren't next to any nuclear fallout or anything, so I'm not sure how they could be
We're
contaminated.
not sure about the contamination part.
So that I don't understand.
All right, let me just, and then another thing, the other meeting I was watching the other night, it seems like, Mr. Winters, Commissioner Winters, you're always referring to hiring outside counsel. Who are we hiring, and what is the cause for always hiring outside counsel? Is that a budgeted item? Is that something that's unforeseen? How does that come
Well, it's
into
generally
play?
unforeseen. I mean, we got, what's turned out, and I think they're going to run an article this week in the Journal News, and I think it's coming out Sunday by Jonathan Badler. And he foiled 78 fire districts and police departments and municipalities, and he's going to have an article on the nuances of workman's comp and retirement system and these things. And being a former police officer, I'm sure you probably understand 207C. We deal with 207A.
I'm familiar with 207C and 207A.
Right.
And
workman's comp.
I get that. And the
And
way the
so-
municipalities dangle the 207CA and 207C, which is there to protect the firefighters and the police officers, it's quite frankly, to me, it's a shame the way these guys get treated. It's not right.
Okay.
And that's another one of my points here, and I'm not going to get into it because of his privacy, but what's happening to P.J. Mulderry is just another complete travesty.
So we spend a lot of time, effort, and money to make sure we are fulfilling our obligations under the law, period.
But the
So this
20-
month's,
the 207C
this month's attorney's fees was $10,340.
$10,340.
Correct. All of which were in reference to personnel matters.
That seems like a lot. How much was it, 10,000 what?
$10,329.
How do we stand with providing mutual aid to the Mount Vernon Fire Department?
We have a very good relationship with Mount Vernon, and we respond to them on a regular
Well-
basis, and they respond back to us.
Let Mike respond to that.
On a regular basis, is it because they're short-staffed there, because they don't have enough people there, or is it, that's what I'm saying, like, why should, I know there's mutual aid, and I get that we have to help each other, but is it because they don't hire enough people, or, I'm not trying to...
Years ago, I'll just tell you and the chief could probably answer this better, but and I get the pages, so I know when they go. There was a time, a number of years ago, that we were going more frequently when they had mechanical issues and they had manpower issues, which you probably are quite familiar with, being a former Mount Vernon police officer. But that has not surfaced. We've gone a few times. We went yesterday, I think, to Yonkers, which was unusual. Yonkers doesn't call us all that often, but we went to Yonkers yesterday. We frequently go to Mount Vernon. We sometimes go, not frequently.
Actually, we went to Yonkers more often since the start of this year than we have Mount
Actually,
Vernon.
we've been to Yonkers a few
We've
times.
been to Yonkers more
It's a
than
balance.
Been to
It's
North Shore a
fair.
few times. I'll just say,
So, let him-
as far as the Manning and every other department, I'm not going to comment to that. I will say they have more manpower on duty than we do. If anything, they have a bigger fire load in Mount Vernon. They have older buildings. It's more of an issue. There are times we run hot and cold. Sometimes they catch a few. Sometimes they're quiet. Knock on wood, we've been quiet. We have been to Yonkers a couple times. They've caught a couple of big jobs spread out around the city, and, even their resources were depleted. We do monitor it. There is always a concern that any other place cuts back and tries to, depend too much on the mutual aid. That's always a concern. It's been decent, and we will keep an eye out. But then again, from what I understand, City of Yonkers, everybody's trying to cut back, and they're going to depend on it more. We cannot survive without it.
Oh, in closing, I just want to add that we've had to call a few times. My mother's been sick lately, and, past couple of years. And the response that we've get from the fire department is just really outstanding. And as a former public servant myself, I know it's what to expect, and these guys really do a great job. And I'd just like to say that we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comments? Sean?
Just real quick, he brought up mutual aid. Has the fire district, and this has been a discussion amongst unions, have you people ever figured out, why don't you send a bill to those municipalities like Mount Vernon or Yonkers or wherever you go, and just let them know, hey, listen, we don't mind coming, but now we're sending our troops to help you out, and we have to backfill, so that's costing us money. So they think it's a freebie, and it is, but on the other hand, it's also costing the district. Has anybody tried that before?
So the whole point of mutual aid is not to have that occur. So no matter where you go in the country, no one's going to back pay people for mutual aid. It's an agreement and a governance model that you agree with your local adjacent municipalities. We just signed it with the county. Everyone's supposed to abide by the rules.
Well, sometimes, and I'm not saying the city of Yonkers, I will say the city of Mount Vernon does not abide by the rules. I know that for a fact, and I've had a brief discussion with the chief. All I'm saying is mutual aid, and Chief, you can jump in and correct me. When you go to mutual aid, you have to exhaust all your resources. That means the crew that's working, a callback system, put in other apparatus, and then you go to mutual aid. There are times with mutual aid.
Wait, Sean,
There's
Sean,
a couple.
no. You try and call back if it's your job. Mutual aid is that because that's when you need it. The goal, and I believe Yonkers is always very good at that, you start with your mutual aid, and the hope is that you can get a recall. You can get your own people to come in, and then you can gradually release some of the mutual aid. But we only have so much equipment. A place like Yonkers has a lot more spare equipment. They can do that. But that is an hour or two into it at best. The recall is not your immediate response. The mutual aid has to kick in. we'll all agree, we're watching Mount Vernon right now because for a while there was good. And I'll say right out, you know what? When Mary Young was there, things were decent for the fire department from my point of view. Current mayor is different. And that's when the problems were in the past, and we're watching for it now. Yes, they should be trying to get people in, but we don't have that too. We're just more fortunate or maybe more diligent. Our Fire Prevention Bureau, I think, does a heck of a job. Our buildings are in better shape. They have a heavier fire load. They have a different environment, so to speak. They have things happen.
The last two mutual aids in Mount Vernon were for multi-dwellings, right? Multi-partition dwellings.
Well, I don't think they weren't actually
Right,
built
there's
as,
going to be
they're
times
older
when they get
buildings.
multiple calls, but I'm just saying it does need to be monitored. And again, has anybody ever thought of that? Because again, Chief is right as the way mutual aid works, but you also have to look at the municipality you're going, are they playing by those rules? And I'll tell you right now, the city of Mount Vernon is not. Everybody else is, and we don't mind helping our fellow firefighters, brothers and sisters in local communities. I'm just saying it's something that needs to be
Right.
watched and let them know, because the comment has been passed by Mayor Ernie Davis, and I quote, "Other departments like coming here because they get their work and they get their fires." I don't like going to Mount Vernon. I don't like us going there because here's the other thing you have to look at. God forbid one of our firefighters gets hurt down there and it's 207A.
It's on their dime.
What?
It's on their dime.
All right, but here's the thing. It is on their dime. There's been people hurt recently in the last 10 years fighting fires in other municipalities, and they haven't picked up that dime. So that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful. I agree with you, Dennis, but if that does happen, this district or whatever municipality has to be diligent to go after them and send them a bill that when we were here, firefighter X or Y. It's just things to be aware of.
Right. But the reason why we excluded Connecticut in our mutual aid agreement is because we didn't know how the reciprocity was going to work for payment under 207A versus we know if our equipment gets damaged responding to a neighboring department on a mutual aid call, the other department is liable for that equipment and manpower or personnel that gets injured. That's New York State law.
Okay, but I just wanted to touch on that because there's, some people think that everybody's playing by the same rules. We are, unfortunately, they're not. Thank you.
John, I just might quickly add, the fact that we backfill when we can, when we send mutual aid out, whether we get 2 guys in or 3, that's our choice.
No, I understand that.
And we're trying to, keep an eye out for ourselves. We don't always fill the whole thing. Years back, we sent 2 or 3 guys out. I made it 4 for at least to have the minimum standard, 2 in, 2 out. God forbid they're in a neighboring house by themselves. The fact the board allows us to fill those 4 back in when we can.
Which is very nice because.
I mean, otherwise, we could save a few dollars and say, well, if we get something, we call Scarsdale. So to charge a neighbor because we choose to backfill, that's because we're looking out for ourselves.
But also, you have to look at it the other way, Chief. If they-
We do have to, yes,
Correct.
they have a reputation, especially under the
That's
current.
the point I'm trying to make.
Yes.
The municipality is abusing it. They need to be sent the message that, okay,
We
we
haven't-
don't mind helping, but now we're giving you a bill.
Okay,
That's all.
we got it. Thank you, Sean.
And one thing, by the way, this county agreement, we've had exactly those discussions you just talked about when we were signing this county agreement, so we're not insensitive to it.
Okay.
So,
You know what? I got to agree with Sean. There was a few times when the volunteers were very active. We went to many mutual aids in Yonkers. And a few years back, I remember when Commissioner Pagano was in charge of the union there, they were called a couple of times in 1 month. And when they went there, the president of the union in Mount Vernon sent his men home because he said they were exhausted, and the Yonkers men came. Well, Pagano went crazy. We came here to help you, and you're sending your men home. That's not right. So Sean is right about sending Bill. I know that you're not going to do that, but I'm just saying, I remember a few years back when he was like that, the Mount Vernon men, they got sent home because they figured mutual aid came to help.
No, Anthony, everybody remembers that incident
Yeah.
very well. Mount Vernon sent all their guys home because there was change of shift and they didn't want to pay overtime. And that's when Yonkers, New Rochelle, Eastchester, we walked away. It was the same administration that they have in place now. That's why we're watching.
But we haven't had a problem at this point. We haven't seen the abuse at this point. If we see some abuse, then we can raise the question, but we have not seen it up until this point.
One time we were in the firehouse on Central Avenue, and that time a man had gotten killed in Yonkers that day, and the volunteers were in there with our apparatus, and Dobbs Ferry was in there also with their apparatus. Well, the union president came over there, he went ballistic. Well, we got volunteers in there, get them out of here. So we argued with the commissioners. None of you gentlemen were there at the time. We said, we were there, we spent our own time from our families, volunteering our time. We had to get put out. Chief Reed was the chief, and had to send our men on overtime to go there, which wasn't right. Which wasn't right. We had to leave because they didn't want volunteers in the firehouse there on Central Avenue.
Okay, well,
So Sean's got a point there.
okay. Thank you, Anthony. Now, bills tonight, as we're going through the bills, the next we have is payment of bills. One of the bills we have tonight, and it just worth special note, that's why I'm bringing it up, is Interlaken Properties. The certiorari rebate we're giving back to Lake Isle is approximately $100,000. 110, looks like to me. Is that right, John? 100? Yeah, you got 48 and 51. 48. So it's approximately $100,000 in certiorari rebates that were negotiated by the town of Eastchester for Lake Isle for a course of about 5 or 6 years, I think it's for, going back, which, in my humble way of thinking, means somebody should rethink about reassessing the town of Eastchester, which hasn't been reassessed since 1941. If it had been reassessed, these certs would not surface. What we do with these certs is we pay them out of the general fund. I don't know what the Eastchester School District's going to do with this, or the town of Eastchester. It would not surprise me if they bonded them out and backdoored them. So you can bond them, and just like we did the TAN tonight, they would do the same thing and issue a note to cover their certs. We're not going to do that. We're going to pay it out of the fund. I'm not sure what they're doing, but it's $100,000 out of the budget, which means we're going to have to go around the budget and find where to take money from.
And just for the record, we have no control over that, correct?
No, we have no say. We just get a letter in the mail saying they've negotiated this. Here it is. And which means, the reality of it all is, when you have large certs, it means the municipality is collecting more taxes than it's entitled to. If it had reassessed, it wouldn't be allowed to collect all those taxes, and it wouldn't be getting the cert claims. The other thing with cert claims that are particularly interesting, and I bring this up a lot because I think it's just the way it works, a lawyer will file a cert claim. He's in no hurry to settle the cert claim. It's an annuity to him. If it sits out there for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, every year it sits, he gets the next year's tax. He can add that next year's tax bill onto his fee. So if he gets, in this case, probably $1 million worth of tax relief, he'll get his percentage on the $1 million. Had he settled it the first year, he would probably only get that 1 year. And then the tax bill would drop down. So, and it seems like the municipalities are in no hurry to settle because they have to take the hit. So it works to everybody's interest to let these things go and go and go, except the taxpayer. So that's my issue on certiorarities. Bronxville reassessed for this, the village, for this very reason. So, has everybody, you gentlemen looked through the bills?
I've reviewed the bills, yeah.
Any questions?
Yeah, the dental bill. I think I might have need John to explain it to us a little bit.
John, the dental bill for Local 916,
It's a one-shot.
I think it's a contractual obligation. at this
It's
point.
an obligation.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm trying to understand the billing in these items that were crossed out.
Oh, they're blocking out the balance on their audit.
They can't hear you at home.
On the bank statement, you're saying, the ones that are crossed out?
No, the actual bill. They're asking us to pay a bill in which they've crossed out the amounts.
No.
No, it's on the
You're
bank.
misreading that, sir. That's they provided the past year.
Bank statements to show what their payments were.
Okay, so where's the actual bill then?
Well, it's not. It's in the
No, it's a
contract.
contractual
$100,000 a
amount.
year.
I thought we needed a bill.
Well, we're allowed to ask for an auditing, and we did, and the audit doesn't match the bill. So therefore, it'll be a contract negotiation.
So that's what I'm concerned about. The audit doesn't match the bill.
Right.
They
Well, we had an estimate in the CBA of what the dental would cost, and it turns out it's something different.
There's no dental bill here to pay, other than the contractual
they
obligation.
pay their dental bill. We
Which
pay it to
is
them.
not here, though.
Yeah,
No, I
it's,
understand that.
And I believe they went out for negotiation this year, so there was a drop, and it was, the way it was explained to me, it was a loss leader to get them in the door. They come up for negotiation, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in July, so they're expecting a 10% increase, is what, we haven't seen it yet. We'll see that next year, but it is contractual.
So we should see the premium.
That is the premium you're seeing there on the bank statements. There's one a
No,
month.
it's a bank statement, it's
well,
not a
no,
premium.
that just shows their disbursements. It's not
It's
showing
not a
a bill
premium.
from.
It's not an insurance.
That's their
premium.
monthly bank statement, just showing the layout.
Correct.
But
So I don't see
if
a
I may,
premium to pay. I know it's a contractual obligation, but the
but the
contractual
dollar amount is
obligation-
fixed right now. You know,
As
so-
part of negotiations, it was communicated what the cost of that dental was, which allowed us to agree on the amount, but yet I don't see the premium.
Oh, okay, well, to me, I was approved because it's a fixed dollar amount that was agreed to.
So I'd like to see the premium.
Right, but the issue is, you're going to, the contract requires us to pay $100,000 towards dental. The union from these documents doesn't look like they spent $100,000 on dental.
But at the same time, if premiums go up
But in
beyond
the
that,
last
it's on their dime.
negotiations, we increased it because the premium increased.
Right. Right.
So that's
And
what
we
I
have
wanna see.
and we have a right in the contract to see
The premiums.
the premiums, or the audit, and we haven't, that's not coming. But that's separate from us paying the $100,000. I think it goes towards next year's negotiation.
Okay. I will be fine.
Okay. So, any other questions? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to pay the bills? Gentlemen?
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Okay, Mr. Inkledon, do you have a second? Okay. Mr. O'Hare? Mr. Inkledon?
Aye.
Mr. Baker?
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye. Okay. Okay.
This was from last.
I would just like to add, Mr. Chairman, if found to be correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't,
The bills at this point have been reviewed by the board members and by John Molinari and the Molinari, I can kill his name, and the chief has signed off on all but the certiorarities. So we have a process now where the bills go through John, then John processes them to the chief, then the chief signs off, they sign off on each and then process them through the board.
Can't say that.
So that's where that is.
oh,
Tonight, we're going to go back into executive session to interview the mechanic, not the mechanic, interview a firefighter for a mechanic's position. Any board member comments?
I already gave my report, Mr. Chairman, everything's been
Okay.
discussed.
So we're going to go into an executive session. We may or may not come back. And I'd look for a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Make that motion?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what time is it, guys?